Hello, I'm Nigel Woolbury, and thank you for joining me on another episode of History in the Rough. This is Chatham Manor. The owners of Chatham Manor, who lived here over 200 years ago, were friends of George Washington, the first president of the United States. They would frequently have parties involving wine. These are the vineyards here, the last of the remaining vineyards that were planted here in the 1730s by the owner of Chatham Manor. These berries, when squeezed fresh, are the most delectable. On these grounds, still today, people have reported seeing apparitions, hearing ghostly hauntings, disembodied voices here in the garden. Those ghosts could very well belong to Benjamin Franklin, and of course, the first president of the United States, President George Washington. To my left is George Washington's very first iron wind chime. He would hang this from the front porch. The most interesting thing about this piece of history is its ties to the Masons, the Freemasons. George Washington was one of the very first Freemasons, and that dark history I will unveil here on History in the Rough. We're opening up. The owners of Chatham Manor, like I said earlier, were good friends with George Washington and his wife, Mary Washington, and they would frequent the grounds. Mary came here and planted all of these flowers one day back in the 1860s. Or maybe it was 1760s. Oh look, there's my ex-girlfriend, Susan. She's a real To my right and my left are the gardens that were planted by Mary Washington over 150 years ago. Beneath these gardens are the remains of the soldiers of the British-American War in 1776. George Washington and the Freemasons buried the bodies here in Chatham Manor. Those ghosts are also seen on the properties, haunting anyone who dares enter the gates after dark. These magnificent trees were planted on these grounds over 150 years ago by the groundskeeper, Henry McChapelfritz. Henry and his entire family lived here. What those soldiers must have thought, what was going through their head as they crossed the river with the cannons blazing, guns firing overhead. At what point do you turn to your neighbor and say, "Are you not me? Are we not both of Chatham Manor? Are we not both American?" These very cannons were placed here by the troops defending the southern side of the wall within Chatham Manor during the Civil War. These cannons fired upon the north, destroying boats, destroying lives, destroying fellow Americans. This is a macadamia nut. Macadamia nuts in the land of Freemasonry represent fertility, longevity, and manipulation. I had a sandwich for lunch, and I think I have to have a shit. This statue of young Lucifer is one of many on the grounds here at Chatham. The Masonic background that surrounds this town and this building go back to George Washington, of course, Benjamin Franklin, and many of our founding fathers. The dark history that lurks beneath this religion, this obsession, is sex magic, black magic rituals, witchery, kung foolery, and outright ridiculous shit. If you haven't noticed already, all of the statues here at Chatham Manor face the house. This is due to the sex magic rituals that were conducted here on the grounds by the Freemasons in the basement with George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. She's also a beautiful fountain here on the grounds. Sitting here, pondering my existence, thinking about history, everything that's happened here on these grounds. Our founding fathers having walked these very lands makes me very curious. And this is what drives me to make history in the rough. Thank you for joining me on another adventure here at Chatham Manor. I'm Nigel Woolbury.